Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that is really beginning to become highlighted in the media today as a result of the Iran war. And that is the manner in which the Gulf Arab states surrounding Iran are being hammered, not necessarily militarily, but in terms of their economy and their tourism. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I've just come across some breaking news coming in from the Middle East, and there's an article in the Independent. Dubai's financial district hit by Kamikaze drone as smoke pours from buildings struck by debris. Now, I've said this in previous videos, and I said this at the beginning of this Iran conflict. I called it the unintended consequences of this war, where you find that myth of the safety and security of these Gulf Arab nations is being shattered by Iranian missiles and drones. And the reason I say this is because these places have been pitched to the world as safe havens. They knew that oil is not something that is going to last forever, and they decided to diversify their economy, so they moved into tourism. Now, what you've seen is that these Arab nations have now begun to diversify their economies towards tourism and finance. However, you find that myth of safety and security is being shattered instantaneously by the shelling of these cities and the infrastructure by the Iranian missiles and drones. And this article is a case in point, where I'll just read a bit of it. Dubai's financial district was hit by a drone Friday morning with the debris from an intercepted Iranian attack damaging a building. Footage from the International Finance Center showed huge clouds of smoke billowing from the towering structure. It is the latest in a series of incidents in the UAE city since the US-Israeli war on Iran began 2 weeks ago. Now, a lot of commentators out there are asking, including Lindsey Graham, where he said that their American partners in the Middle East are, it's time for them to act now. And a lot of commentators are asking, why are the Gulf nations just on the receiving end and not retaliating? And there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, their militaries are woefully incapacitated. I think they just have militaries for the sake of tokenism. The Saudis, have had to sign a defense pact with the Pakistanis. You can't get any lower than that. And that shows you the level at which their militaries are. Because Iran, which was heavily sanctioned, has got a military that if you stick all these Gulf nations together without their support from their proxies, the United States and the West and Pakistan, if they had to go toe to toe together against the Iranians would eat them up alive. The Iranians would eat them up alive despite years of sanctions. So one has to ask the question, what have they done with all the money that they invested in their military? I believe they were very hubristic in their approach. They thought that the Americans would be there forever, because don't forget, the petrodollar was based on the foundations that the Saudis provided oil that was sold in dollars and only dollars, and the Americans provided protection. The Americans have now become a net exporter of oil. They're the world's greatest, they're the world's largest oil producing nation at the moment. So there's no need for them. If you recall during COVID, when Trump refused to allow the Saudi ships to dock, and they were all these oil tankers were sitting out there at sea. So the paradigm has shifted under Trump 1, and under Trump 2, it's moved even further. Now, they've got their militaries, as we stated. Kuwait was a good example. Saddam Hussein rolled into Kuwait. The Kuwaitis could do nothing. With all the money and all the arms the money they had spent on arms and ammunition and rebuilding the army was no match for Saddam. So this is why I say all these Gulf Arab nations put together without their proxies standing by them, if they went at it with Iran, the Iranians would eat them for breakfast. But the other most important reason I suspect that the Gulf Arab nations are not retaliating against Iran is because they are afraid of this turning into a full-scale war on their soil. Because then there's no coming back from that. There's absolutely no coming back from that. Now at least they can mitigate and minimize damages and the reports coming out. The damage is sporadic. If they take the Iranians on head on, you multiply what is happening in Dubai and Qatar and all these places by 100, because that is what the Iranians will rain down on them. The Houthis will have free reign on them. Hezbollah will have free reign on them, and so will the Iranians. So if you can imagine, if the damage now is inflicting pain, can you imagine a full-blown war, what it will do? And that is the reason I suspect they are not getting involved, because they know that there is going to be an after this war, and then a lot of rebuilding of confidence has to be done, because at the moment there's an extreme Western flight out of these Gulf Arab nations. So rebuilding confidence to that level, they're going to need to spend a lot of money on these influencers and Instagram stars and TikTok people to get them back there. And it goes to show how fickle humanity is, A few people running around on sandy beaches in bikinis and sipping cocktails and telling you how amazing it is, driving Ferraris at breakneck speeds and, messing about in the sand dunes. And next thing you know, flights are booked again. So they're banking on that. However, that region is volatile. If that Iranian regime does not change, if there's no change in the Iranian regime, the Americans pull out, the Israelis sit back, the propensity for the same level of conflict or worse always looms large over these Gulf states. And that is where the true problem will lie. So, anybody, any foreign player wanting to incite any sort of instability in that region just needs to play the Iranians against the rest of them and sit back and watch the theater, because it will unfold almost instantaneously. The article further goes on to say footage from the International Finance Center showed huge clouds of smoke billowing from the towering structure. It is the latest in a series of incidents in the UAE city center since the US-Israeli war on Iran began 2 weeks ago. Dubai officials shared in a post on X that debris from a successful interception caused a minor incident on the facade of a building in central Dubai. No injuries have been reported. So, while the wording is that it's minor, the visuals look a bit more scary. And it's always the visuals that are imprinted in people's minds. An Iranian official had warned on Wednesday it would target banks and economic centers linked to the United States and Israel. So this is a concerted effort by the Iranians at targeting Western assets in these regions. And that's probably the moral justification for it. There's a lot of other underlying reasons why the Iranians would target these areas as well. So, if there's no change in the Iranian regime and the Americans abandon this effort and walk away, and the Israelis are left carrying the can and they managing the situation as they would usually do, then you have a dominant Iran in that region. A dominant Iran which then makes the Gulf Arab nations subservient and weak in the face of Iranian aggression. So I thought I'll just highlight this. I mean, I've done a few videos on this, but this was some breaking news that just came out, so I thought I'll do a video on this. I want to thank you for spending time with us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.